Well, greetings. Thanks for joining us today. Welcome to the 97th episode of Lightbulb Moments. Remember, money's not the most important thing in life, but it is like oxygen on the gotta have it scale. Thank you very much for joining us. I am Tom Kuhn from Qnity. Whether you're live with us or listening to the podcast, we're glad you're with us. We're here to take a often complicated, confusing, and overwhelming process of financial success and making it simple, visual, and actionable. Our last guest 2 weeks ago was Ronan Percival, the CEO and founder of Forest. And he went through a great study that they just published. And I, not published, but he's presenting on it. And this is one of the nuggets, how a guest is 3 times more important than pricing. So as everybody thought about price increases and sensitivity by the clients, how they feel is what they're most sensitive about. So that was one of the many nuggets that came out of this study. Today, we are going to have Lisa Starr joining us. Lisa is principal of Wynne Consulting Education, and she's also a certified mind-body consultant. We're going to have a great conversation, including on a topic that isn't discussed very much, which I'll get to in a little bit. All right, so 2 to 10 after, oh my gosh, what a time we're going through in Florida. And our hearts go out to those in Florida. I saw many of them in New York City last weekend. I'll talk about New York City in a moment, but 2 to 10 is on. The hotel's fine. I think we're close, maybe a couple days. Michelle might know more about that than me, but no, the hotel is open. Everybody is super excited to take advantage of this opportunity and connect again. We also will be doing some special things for Florida-based salons while we're down in the state. There is still room to register. We are close to our capacity, but not yet. If you qualify, have multi-locations and you have an interest, please reach out to a member of our team on that, and they can make sure you qualify and all that and get you registered. Now, the Pro Beauty Compensation Study now open for entry. Well, it has been open for entry for some time, and we do need you. If you haven't completed the process, then please do so. We have turned the deadlines upside down, and I've done it literally and figuratively. We've changed the deadlines. We have extended it because we want to meet our submission goals, and we're getting there. But for those of you that are completing the process, I love this quote, and I'm poking the bear a little bit. We're very grateful for anybody that's in the compensation study. Don't get me wrong. But now's the time. If you haven't finished the process, or if you haven't started the process, now's the time. We need to change the narrative about what a career in the professional beauty industry looks like. So some of these ridiculous numbers are challenged based upon actual data. And then to participate in the study, of course, you will get the full report. And I have seen early findings from the survey, and the findings are fascinating, and we can't wait to go public on those, which is going to happen after we close the study out. So financial wellness for pro beauty is what we are passionate about at Qnity, whether it's in our Money Pro financial wellness program. That is our newest program that helps employees and employers with a benefit that they will truly use and love. And the metrics are overwhelming when a staff member is not worried, stressed, et cetera, about money. They perform better, they miss less work, they're more creative, more productive, all that kind of stuff. So it's a double win. It's a win for the employees and employers. And so if you haven't yet signed up for Money Pro, do a demo, see if it's right for you and your team. It also will address a very common issue, and one of the issues that led us to do the compensation study, and that is a pervasive misunderstanding and underestimating of earnings by service providers themselves. And so we teach actually how to read a paycheck and all that kind of stuff. Also, we've got our Money for Students course that we're into a ton of campuses. I think we're up to 102, might be more than that now. And the 9 Grid is one of the many visual tools in that course. All right, to prosper, manage your ATM, your attention, time, and money. It's not lost on us how precious your time and attention are. So thanks again for joining us today. Past episodes are on YouTube, and including the one I mentioned about Ronan, as well as I think most all of them are there. We do welcome the school community, so really salons, day spas, and schools, I think is really who our participant is made up of. And while we do discuss industry matters, economic matters, social matters, whatever, that's really our sweet spot of really making sure that this audience is well served. All right, so I've got maybe a few light bulb moments here before I invite Lisa into the conversation. And the first one is, I'm going to go back here a little bit. We're going to leave this up on the screen. Well, bear with me. I don't know what I just did there. There we go. Okay. So I was just in New York last weekend, and I went to Intercoiffure. And to be honest with you, I was going to skip it. You know, I think inertia is our tendency for all of us is to stay home and whatever. And I'm so glad I went. There's no substitute for the human connection, the eye-to-eye connection. Love being with all of you by Zoom here, but there's a whole special quality of experience that I don't think I have to inform you about. But I do encourage you to get out and be around other people in the industry, whether it's 2 to 10, whether it's some other event like Intercoiffure, which I just went to. It's always powerful. I always meet someone. I always connect with people that I've known and find out a new dimension to the relationship, find out trends, et cetera. So certainly an encouragement to not only attend 2 to 10, but just get out and be around other people. So I've got a few light bulb moments and a few insights for you. And these are all coming from something called Qnity sites. I really like this guy. He does daily posts. And so I've got a few of them that just spoke to me. And so that's my reference. First one is the economy is weird. What should we be doing right now? Interesting question. Is a recession coming or here? How far will rates go up before they start to go down again? What will the stock market look like before the end of the year or by the end of the year? So, you know, are you interested in like my answers to that questions? Well, I don't have a clue. That's what he says, and that's what I say. And I think anybody who says they do have a clue is pontificating. There's never been a time like this, and there's no playback. I think Lisa and I will piggyback on this in our conversation. And what he says is, here's what I do know. When planning for the unexpected, your balance sheet must be ready to maximize offensive and defensive moves that might be necessary. All right, now, I have often found, and I think this has hit me over the head even more recently, that many understand the income statement, but few understand the balance sheet. And we just did a Money SBO course up in Minnesota a couple of weeks ago. And if I can encourage financial literacy, even for those of you that are strongly financially literate, then learn the balance sheet. And because the balance sheet, understanding the income statement and the balance sheet, the P&L, which is slang for income statement, and the balance sheet gives you a level of confidence in terms of financial literacy and financial understanding. Now, I did notice that Kevin Lighthart, the CPA, raised his hand. I haven't seen why, but he's probably saying amen. The next insight out of Qnity sites, and another light bulb moment I have for you, is framed a reminder about how lucky we are, all right, especially as we look at the hurricane that just hit Florida. When was the last time you got aggravated with a problem you were dealing with? Well, for me, it was maybe this morning, all right? It might have felt like the wheels were coming off the bus. Well, not really, but it can be. Well, think about, he mentions an encounter he had last week, he got in an Uber in Ohio, asked the driver where he was from, and he and his wife had managed to escape Afghanistan a year ago. He's homesick, but he's fortunate to be in America and to be able to drive for Uber. His parents and siblings did not get out in time, though. They spend their days now struggling to find basics like bread and water. So he goes on to say, a year ago, his friend reminded me that first world and third world problems exist. Fortunately, all our problems, or for many of us, are first world problems. And if you're having a bad day, remind yourself of that. Final is has to relate with humor. And learning to laugh at ourselves. And he mentions one of his favorite quotes is, when faced with the chance of laughter or crying, laugh. Last week, he read a quote that was even better. The person who cannot laugh at himself will soon find others doing it for him. All right. So I tried to make my wife laugh yesterday because she had knee surgery, which is why we didn't do roundtable last week. And of course, spousal humor also can be very high risk. I think my humor was accepted by her, but anyway, learning to laugh is a pretty darn good thing. So there you go. I want to now officially welcome Lisa Starr to the conversation. And Lisa, if you can come off mic, and if we could see you, there you are.
Hello.
How are you this morning?
I am terrific. How are you, Tom? And how is everyone? I hope we're good, because we are having only first world problems here, right? I love that. Right
on. Totally agree. Well, so Lisa, I think you and I had met at some point in the past, but neither of us can remember exactly where.
So, because we're so old, we can't remember when or where.
You threw me under the bus on that one too, didn't you? Okay. All right. So I'm glad to have you as the guest. And so you not only have a consulting practice, but you also contribute in different ways, and you're a mind-body certified consultant. And mind-body will be at 2 to 10, which is awesome. So that's exciting. So you have been a business consultant specializing in salons and spas and probably wellness centers for about how long?
20 some years, between 20 and 25.
What's changed?
Boy, what hasn't? I mean, we've gone from very simple menus and a very simple exchange with the guest to much more complex. You know, when I started in the industry, I worked in salons because there weren't spas then. And, you know, there were salons trying to become spas with full service massage or facial, but it was well before the advent of, you know, the full-on spa. And now the menus are much more complex. And honestly, I think the big thing is, Tom, is that people are seeking something different from us. It's not just the maintenance, cut my hair, you know, do my facial. They need relaxation and stress relief, and they really look to their beauty providers to get that.
You know, you do some work globally here. And I mean, you just got back from somewhere.
I spent the last 10 days. I was in Malta for 5 days, and I spent a few days in Italy, and then I stopped by London on my way home, getting home yesterday afternoon, right before I spoke to you.
So you're jet setting around doing global work then as a consultant and an educator.
Yes.
And, you know, you mentioned something, ironically, you're working on a compensation study right now.
I am.
Very, very different than what we're doing. And I think it's super interesting. So let's go there for a little bit. Tell us about this compensation study you're working on, who's included, et cetera.
So as you say, I've been traveling the world for a while. I do education sessions on spa and salon and wellness management in various countries. I speak at conferences. And I have a good global network, and I started to think about how business is different in different countries. In the US, we have no constraining system for compensation, which I think is excellent. It allows us to have a lot of different options. Mm-hmm. Most countries pay a monthly salary, which is pretty consistent by the country. You know, you can, within a few hundred euros or pounds or whatever, get to what the pay will be. But we are all over the place when it comes to the world in terms of what they make in India versus what they make in Germany. So I put together a study in 2014, mostly towards spas, and we had, I think, 150 respondents from over 50 countries. And so we put out the results of that survey, but we haven't done it since. I was getting ready to do it in 2019 and 2020, and then we know what happened. So I thought, let's wait. And now we're back up full steam ahead. So we're just introducing it this week. It will be available on my webpage. It will be on my LinkedIn page. It will be on the Spa Business Magazine site because I'm a contributing editor there. And perhaps if you're on my email list, you will get it too. So we're just trying to get a handle on, how have things changed post-COVID and what are the situations in various countries. I think it's important to keep an eye on that, where we stand in the US vis-a-vis these other countries.
Yeah, so we've got the US piece, and we're excited about completing the one we're doing right now, which as you heard earlier today and we discussed, the global piece is of great interest to me because I do think it provides some insights on compensation here, doing business in the US compared to other countries. Now that you mention this about mandates by governments, we've done some work in Curacao with there's a great salon spa down there, and I went there 3 years in a row. Kimberly DeFreitas, great owner, beautiful spa. And they have very specific constraints, not only about compensation, but like they can't fire anybody, So it's quite, so when we look at compensation in other countries, especially maybe countries that are maybe a little bigger, what do you find?
Well, as I mentioned, they're typically paid a monthly salary. There may also be commission on retail. There may be commission on service, and there may not. The social benefits are typically mandated by the country, not the company. So, if you work in the UK, they're obliged to give you certain benefits. Whereas here it's all, by the company. And we know in the US, it's very difficult for salon and spa employees to get, say, health insurance or disability or any of those kinds of coverages, which are more common in other places. I think that we are very well paid. We are certainly tipped higher than any other country. Most countries, you give a very small gratuity, if any. So that's a benefit to us on the cash side. But we are not the most expensive. And in our findings in the last survey, it was Australia and Switzerland 1 and 2 in how much their staff was paid. They're also, to your point, Tom, very constrained by regulation, and that has a cost, right? If you're a business owner in a company and you can't get rid of people and you have to pay even non-performers and their benefits, there's a cost to that.
All right, I want to go to another subject that doesn't really seem very sexy to people, and it's operational, but it was on a list of area of expertise for you, and it has to do with inventory. And the inventory is so poorly understood by most salons and spas. And what I find is it is one of the last areas to come together, even for a more very systematized and successful business. I mean, in short, in many cases, it's a mess. And I think inherent to that is complexity. There's professional, there's retail, whatever. But let's spend a little bit of time talking about inventory because, it may not be super sexy, guys. It may not be a super exciting topic, but from a financial standpoint, I think we'd be remiss in not talking about it,
For sure. So Tom mentioned my work is as a business consultant. That's my primary job. I go into businesses, often existing, sometimes new, help them set up or help them figure out if they're not hitting the targets that they want, why, what's going on. And inventory is one of those low-hanging fruits that you go after as a consultant pretty quickly because changing compensation plans or marketing strategies is not something you can do, overnight. But inventory and lack of control thereof is easy to fix, and it can be very impactful. I mean, if you're looking at a business with a 5 or 6% bottom line, and we can go into inventory and backbar supplies and save 2 points, well, that's a 50% increase in your income, right? And, easy, it's not that difficult. We just need systems. I could go on for an hour about this and I won't, but In short, determining who you're buying from, who will be the accepted vendors of the products that you carry, having those products set up in your software by size, not accepting back, substitutions. We have a lot of that in our industry. If they can't send you one size, they send you another. Well, you don't have that in your system. You don't have a price for that. That creates conflict. So we have to try to avoid that. So you think about when you receive your orders. I mean, it makes me crazy when I go into a busy salon on a Friday and they just got their orders in and they're sitting in boxes on the floor. And I'm like, that's money. There's money in boxes on the floor in your salon. Do you know that? It doesn't belong there. It belongs on the shelf. So you want to time your deliveries so that you get them on Monday or Tuesday when you have time to get them away. We don't need to deal with that on a busy weekend. We need segregated storage between retail and professional, 2 different chart of accounts entries speaking to P&Ls, and they should be noted as such and kept separate storage. So we're not mixing. We really don't like it on Saturday when you run to the shelf and grab a hairspray that was for retail and you use it at the back bar, right? That creates challenges.
Some of the things you just mentioned there was like, I was trying to find my pen so I could use the terminology you're using, like they need to be segregated. What a great word choice for something that I consider to be a very common issue, and that is the lack of segregation between professional and retail and storage areas. So let's keep diving in on this a little bit. I mean, obviously, you said you could talk about an hour plus. We won't, but I think there's more here. So you just talked about segregating them. You talked about timing of receipt. What are some other nuggets that you have or opportunities as it relates to inventory management and control?
Well, retail is easy, right? Because it's a one-on-one situation. We order one, we put one on the shelf, we sell one. It's pretty easy to track that in your software. Professional, not so much, right? We have a lot of challenges with that tube of hair color or that gallon of 20 volume, how quickly we use it. So physical counts monthly are essential to at least see how close you are and what your sort of degree of error is. If we know that every month you're off 2 or 3%, then okay, good, we know that and we move forward with that. So there's that monthly count that has to be done. And the other big piece is on the professional side, what is the replenishment method, right? If one of your stylists or estheticians runs out of a product, how do they get another one? Where do they get it from? Where is that recorded? And as I earlier mentioned, it's not running to the retail shelf and grabbing one, right? There should be locked storage where they get that item. But let me say this to you. Say you have an esthetician who comes up to the front desk and says, I need my jar of oxygenating cream. I ran out, and we hand one over. Okay. The same person comes up a week later. I'm out again. I need another jar. Is anybody looking to see, well, how many services did this person do with this expensive cream in the interim, right? Because we don't know what happened to that once it goes into that treatment room. And in busy salons and spas, there are multiple therapists in that room. It's owned by the room, not the person, right? So we don't know what is happening to that. And that, to me, not knowing is not a comfortable place when it comes to money. At minimum, I would have the technicians have to produce an empty to get a new, right? This is a simple way. Bring up your empty hairspray, jar of whatever, and we'll give you a new one. But you can't just come up and say, we need one and take it. Like, that's zero inventory control.
Keep going. I really think this is an important conversation. And, circling back here, so I would agree with you. I think there can be an extra point, maybe extra 2 points in inventory. A lot of it depends on, retail performance, or how much retail you're doing, not doing. There's a lot of, it depends. But it's a big opportunity, especially if you just extrapolate this into a few years. If you're able to save $500 a month on inventory, that's what, $6,000 a year. You project that out a few years. I mean, $18,000, and these numbers could be quite low.
Well, we don't know is the issue. And if you don't know, that you should be uncomfortable with that. And I'm going to tell you a quick story that was a real light bulb moment for me. Many years ago, I was a consultant to a salon in New Jersey, very busy salon, 3 owners, no inventory control. They had a spa. They moved from a 4,000 square foot space to a 14,000 square foot space, first problem, and build a spa with zero control. So we started with inventory. And again, the initial count, what do we have as of today at noon? Let a month go by, count again. When you compare the sales of professional services to the service supplies, their costs over a 2-month period were something like 70%.
Wow.
70% of the money they spent on professional supply was gone. Now that's theft. It's rolling under the table. It's there, you know, we do have obsolescence and products go bad, but if you don't know how many people are ordering and when they're ordering and where it's going, you could have a problem you don't even know about. And guess what the worst thing is? The money's gone. By the time you discover this, it's down the drain, it's gone. We cannot recover it. I have one more point I'd like to make for salons.
Yeah, please.
Many of you may know this, but a quickie trick that I often use is that each station's back bar supplies of styling products are tagged in a specific way. Maybe it's an orange dot or a yellow star, and those products go to a certain station. And that's a great way at the end of a busy Saturday to figure out what goes back where it started. Because I know what happens when we get busy and we're grabbing, and by the end of the weekend, who knows whose products went where. So just try to put some tracking mechanisms in place.
All right, I want to move over to marketing.
Okay.
All right. And so, you know, how you market today is different. And what insights might you have about marketing for us today?
Well, Tom, you know, we have to be everywhere, right? It used to be we'd have this discussion about your ad in the newspaper or the magazine, right? Those days are long gone. We don't do print. We realize it's all in social media now. And then you've got to be a social media expert, right? I mean, I still don't understand TikTok quite. I mean, I stay up on Pinterest, and Instagram obviously is the main driver right now. May I say as an aside, also for staffing, we're seeing amazing results from Reels and staffing efforts through Instagram, not just marketing to customers. But you know, what are you saying that you do, right? I'm seeing a lot of behind the scenes videos, which I think are really great for the spa side, because the client that doesn't come regularly, that's a bit of a mystery back there. Like, what do people do? They go back there and shut the door and we don't know what happens. So demystifying it by showing the steps of a body treatment or a scrub or even a massage or facial, especially new technologically involved facials, can be really great way to boost that business. But we also talked to you and I about what we're really selling, right? And what has changed over the years is that it's less maintenance and it's more about connecting with people. And your clients want to be with you because they enjoy being with you. And oh, by the way, I got a service done, you know, but it's not as much about the service as it is their whole little getaway. Now, everyone on this call knows that we're therapists of some sort or another. You've had clients tell you amazing things in your chair that you have no idea why they're telling you. Secrets. They feel they can confide in you. The same thing happens in spa treatment rooms. And I don't think we need to advertise that we're, you know, that kind of therapist, but we do need to recognize that we're providing a little bit of a safe haven for people. And now that's even more important because there's so much change. The world is going so fast that they want that one thing they can just go and count on, having a little peace and quiet and time on themselves, you know, attention for themselves.
Yeah, you know, I was at one of the segments that I saw over the weekend in New York, dealt with mental health and mental health in the workplace in particular. We've had, you know, we had Lynn McNeese from iSpa on here. We've had some other, you know, recent spa guests. And I'm just really struck how the human touch piece, which we know is what defines the industry, is licensed to touch, is really what a big opportunity it is right now for these businesses to be able to serve the marketplace and to be be that safe haven you mentioned. Doesn't feel as touchy-feely as it might have before.
No, I think and again, you're not going to market yourself that way, but you do have to consider, where's the community here? How am I providing a community place? Are people welcomed when they walk in? Do they feel, good right away? I don't know if you've ever been to a Danny Meyer restaurant in New York City. He's a restaurateur that owns a bunch of really great restaurants. And whatever one you walk into, within 2 minutes, you're like, I'm home. These people get me. They're like, hey, how you doing? Let's get your code. Hey, have you tried this ravioli? Come have a seat here. And next thing you know, you feel like, yeah, I belong here. I mean, we play that role for our guests, and we can't forget how important that is. Another quick story, I get my hair cut by someone that's been doing it for years, and they live an hour and 15 minutes from me now. So I don't go that often, as you can see. But I went down there last week, and I took a friend that doesn't get her hair done very often, and she paid the guy $100 to sort of just trim her hair. And he said, oh, that's too much money. You don't need to give me that much. She said, I know, but I like coming here and I enjoy the conversation with you, and you have a nice garden. I thought that kind of sums it up, doesn't it? It's more than just the license to cut your hair part. Right on.
All right, let's spend a minute or two, talking about leadership before we wrap up here. And leadership, I think, is an important topic to you. You do advise people on leadership. So talk about leadership today.
Today, so tricky. Getting our ducks in a row has never been more complicated. And need I say that there are generational changes that we are encountering now. People have a different level of respect for leadership. They react differently than maybe you or I did when we first started in a job. And sometimes you find yourself saying, what is that? But we realize that this is what it is now. I mean, no one has enough staff, and we can't be as choosy as we might have been and not hire someone who's good technically because we don't like the way they treat us. So, and yet in the midst of all of this, we have to be positive and smiling, and it's difficult. So I talk a lot about how you have to start with you. That message on the airplane when the masks come down, take care of yourself first. We must make sure that we are fully present, rested, exercised, in our healthiest state we can be to deal with the rest of the drama that we have. We know that the jobs of running these salons and spas are not office jobs. And if you are sitting at a desk all day in front of a computer, you're missing your MBWA piece, managing by wandering around, getting out there, sitting in the break room. Yes, you're going to hear that Sally's cat died and whose boyfriend broke up with them and who needs new tires in their car, but that's all part of the machinery that keeps your place running smoothly. And your staff needs to see you and be able to communicate that way. And they need to see that you're positive. And lastly, I think most important in these days is transparency. These young people, they see under any smoke and mirrors right away. I mean, you have to really be upfront about the situation. I hope people listening to this are those that have monthly meetings where you talk about results and sales and targets and where we're going without getting into, personal, but we're business. We're in business. We're in the sales business, and we need to be aware of where we stand, and we need to be transparent with how we spend that money with our staff. Yes, we have to watch how we pay people, but we also have to have enough money to keep the place clean and to pay for the software and to market so they get new customers and to have fresh coffee, and all of those things cost money as well. I think many of our staffs, and my experience was that they had no clue how much all those other things cost. They think they should get most of the money, and whatever you do with the rest, pay the rent, that's great. But that's our fault for not teaching them like what it looks like to actually run one of these businesses.
Well, Lisa, you've been a great guest. I'm glad to get to know you a little bit and to have our community get to experience some of your great insights. Sounds like we're going to see you in St. Petersburg at 2 to 10, which is great. Look forward to seeing you in person. And I'm pleased to welcome you to the Brain Trust, and we'll be sending you a $1 million light bulb. So let's give Lisa a virtual round of applause and thank you. Much appreciated.
May I say one more thing in closing, Tom?
Sure.
It has to do with the future and marketing and trends. As I said, I was in London Monday, and I went to Selfridges. It's a big, fancy department store on Oxford Street, right in the heart of shopping district. Their beauty floor has every service you can imagine available for walk-up. You can get a wig fitted, you can get a henna tattoo, a blowout, your nails done, your lashes, your brows. I mean, and it's hopping. It is absolutely hopping. I was there on a Monday afternoon, and I mean, hundreds of people are in there. And I look around and I say, this is what people want today, right? They don't want to make an appointment 3 weeks from now to get my hair done. They like, I want it now. I'm going to go now. I'm going to do something now. You know, again, younger people, immediacy. I think we need to keep an eye on our model and make sure that we're staying current as time moves on.
That's a great light bulb moment to end with. So I'm going to wave the light bulb moment flag. Thank you. I appreciate your addendum to the conversation. Very on point. So Lisa, thanks again. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure. And I look forward to seeing you very soon in St. Petersburg.
All right. You take care.
Thank you.
All right.
You too.
The rest of you. So we are, I'm trying to think if there's any other news from the community here. I noticed that Carolyn Behan just made a comment in the chat. So, Carolyn's right in the thick of things down in Florida there. So, Carolyn, we do think about you and Sebastian and Desmond and your team, and we look forward to seeing you at 2 to 10. You know, we've got, as usual, we got some great participants today. I'm not going to go through the whole list of everybody on the call, but I want to wish you guys a great rest of the week. And we hope to see many of you in about 10 days down in St. Pete. But for sure, we'll see you next week. We'll be live again next Wednesday, 10 a.m. Central Time. And we appreciate you being part of this today. So thank you very much. And this is the end of the session. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Bye now.